Hey, welcome to the Thrivecast. It is a production of the Thrival organization, and Thrival has been around, going strong for almost 15 years, where firm owners come from all over the world to build community and grow and build their firms together through our programs, events, education, and conferences. And we want to say thank you to Bill. They are a sponsor of the Thrivecast and have been for many years. We're actually a 15-year user of Bill in our firm. So thank you, Bill, for helping us as we deploy Bill into a lot of our controllership and CAS work with our clients all across the country. Thank you, Bill, for being a sponsor of the Thrivecast. Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Thrivecast. You know, we bring guests onto the Thrivecast that know all about growth. They know about the accounting profession. And I learned so much. I was just talking to the guest off recording, how much I learned actually from 14 years of these podcasts on the Thrivecast. So I'm really excited. And I know Heath Alloway. I've known him. He's a growth partner at Sorren. And the journey, if you haven't heard of Sorren, what a fascinating journey. But Heath has come through firms, through the Upstream Academy, which I've known him and those partners for a long time. I've spoken at their conferences before, and Heath's been in the profession forever. Heath, that's my intro to you. So Heath, welcome to the Thrivecast, man. I probably didn't get all of that right, but I'm glad you're here. Yeah. Yeah. I think so. Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you. I think a lot of people start them out gung ho, like doing it weekly. And we started out monthly from day one. Cause I'm like, I think that's all I can pull off. It's doing this on a monthly basis. So that might've been, what helped. So, but Heath, this is really, it's really cool. There's a lot I want to talk to you about, business development. That's kind of one of your expertise, and you know the thought process that accountants a lot of times are introverts and can't do it. But I think I would love to start with the fact that you've kind of done something pretty amazing in the profession, and we're all really used to now private equity buying up firms, now platforms being created where they're kind of rolling firms in, and some firms in the platforms are allowing them to keep their own brand. Some people are fighting to be independent. They're like, I don't want to be purchased by anybody. And if people don't know, you and a lot of other leaders combined actually 13 firms together to create this new entity called Sorren, and you're this growth partner there. And that is just wild. What started that, and kind of what was the thought process behind doing something like that?
So I'll hit two sides of it, Jason, on the thought process of giving some background on how Sorren came to about, and then kind of some of the things that pulled me towards Sorren. And so the Harris Legacy firm, they were a big Upstream Academy firm. I knew their firm leadership, several of their team members for the past several years. And I'll never forget, I wasn't facilitating the discussion, but Jeremy Clopton was, and it was a group of managing partners. And I remember him coming out of one of those managing partner meetings, and Josh was the second one that announced, like, anything new in your firm. And he said, oh, by the way, I did take an outside investment partner. And digging into that, there was a group of managing partners. They were in a BDO Alliance group. And so several of the firms had known each other for multiple years. And that led to some of the discussions of everything that's going on in the profession and what would it look like for us to come together. And really the approach has been, and this is part of what really drew me to that too, was truly a one firm culture of how can we take like-minded firms, how can we take some high-performing firms, come together and do something special. And that was the premise and the foundation. Clearly, when you bring 13 firms together, it's no small task. There's a lot more to that story. But part of, and Jason, I honestly, I don't even think I've shared this with a lot of people. So sharing this on a podcast is maybe a little different, but part of my, like, I grew up in a really small family owned business. And so I've always kind of had that entrepreneur mindset. And one of the things, like, after I get out of public accounting, I would love to be part of like a venture capital group or a private equity group to reinvest and help companies develop and grow. And this was a chance to do something that has really never been done in the profession before and give me more insight to that. And so those were some of the driving factors in making that decision.
Very cool. Well, and so yeah, I think y'all are some of the first to compile that many firms at once, right? Together. I think there's a lot we can learn because firms are still taking investment, they're still being purchased, and we're still acquiring firms. So these transactions have been around a long time. But I would love to talk about what are some of the things you didn't anticipate when you bring this group together. And what are some of the benefits and the power you get that you maybe didn't anticipate when y'all first thought? I'm just curious some of the learning from that.
Yeah, Jason, the first part is, and I refer to it as the American dream. It was 12 months ago, I didn't know 75 or 80% of the partners in the firms. And I took that leap of faith based on my relationship with Josh and other partners in his firm. And so the part of the surprise is just the first leadership meeting I was actually at the BDO Alliance conference, having a lot of our firm leaders together. Although it was the first time I met several of them, it was like I've known them and worked with them for a long time, and that was surprising. It was cool to experience that. One of the other big things, you going from that many firms to a $200 million firm. There's clearly infrastructure changes for leadership opportunities on the tax side, the assurance side, or key industries that we're focused in. Well, it in a way, it forced people taking on those leadership roles. So at their local offices, it created opportunities for others to step up and accelerate their career path, which I think that's been pretty cool to see. Now, them trying to balance their workload in their local office versus taking that on. We're still working through some of that, but it seems like there's a genuine excitement around that. So that's been pretty cool to see as well.
Very cool. It's how many team does Sorren have now, would you say? Do you know? It's hard to probably remember that number.
How many? Say it again.
How many team members do y'all have? Yeah,
total.
Total.
Team members. Roughly, I believe we're just north of 1,000.
Golly. Wow.
And there's 2 offshore offices there too, Jason. And they are, when I say the one firm approach to, they are part of the Sorren team.
Yeah. Okay. Very cool. Well, a lot of people may or may not know. We've had Michael Horwitz on here, who's executive director of BDO. BDO is just a really strong alliance. So firms in there are just pretty strong firms anyway. So most of them were BDO alliance firms. I think Acuity, we know Matthew and Kenji from Acuity. I guess they weren't in BDO, but did you take in some firms that weren't in the BDO alliance, like Acuity? Are there others?
There are others, Jason, and it's the majority of those are truly relationship based. That goes back to the culture aspect of it. There were some outside of BDO that have surfaced. There potentially will be more on the horizon as well.
Okay. Yeah, very cool. Okay. Well, that's pretty cool. Thanks for letting us dive into that. Heath, I would love to just dive into some of your other expertise on business development. What is business development anyway? I think selling, marketing, BD, aren't these all the same thing, or what's the difference between those things, or how would you explain it?
So the clearest way I try to describe it to firms, and some of this comes from the work that I did at Upstream, we would call it the four pillars of success. And I see it in this order too. I share it in this order specifically of culture. Culture drives everything. And then our people, then clients, and then wise growth. And growth is how we fuel the future of the firm. And I describe it when I'm talking to firms of business development. It's truly one-on-one interactions or interactions with our clients. Marketing's one-to-many. And so that helps define the difference and then how they intersect. Jason, I've been a big believer, and I don't know how this will come across. Maybe I hope it doesn't come across the wrong way, but I've been a big believer in firms truly trying to take the mindset of how can we work less and become more profitable. be more intentional with our time, making more intentional choices that drives the kind of growth that is healthy for us and our firms.
Yeah, very cool. And so that's kind of what you're bringing. Is that what the growth partner at Sorren now is responsible for? Is the business development aspect of what y'all do?
It's somewhat unique, Jason. It's I'll say it's a hybrid role. And so the first 8 months, so I joined April 1st, whenever I had previous large firm experience, and one of my key roles was focused on our key industries that we went to market in. So the first 8 months was really going on a fact-finding mission, getting to know all the different firms, finding out where we had these pockets of expertise, client concentration. So we are right now in the midst of rolling out our first key industry groups and the leadership teams around that. We expect more waves next year of really growing and scaling that industry experience. So that is a piece of it. The non-traditional piece of it is replicating some of what we've done at Upstream, but for our client base. So this year, I'm already working on a couple strategic plans and Sorren client retreats. One's a nonprofit, one's a general contractor. So taking some of those same principles and applying it to our client base. And then one of the things we're looking at too is leadership development opportunities for our client base. So that's probably more the non-traditional side, some traditional. You mentioned the growth aspect of it. We are looking to launch a business development training program internally next year. We've had a lot of change the past few months. We're coming into opportunity season, so we are going to hold off on that side of it until we get into next year.
Yeah, you call it opportunity season. That's great.
It's mindset, Jason.
That's right. Tax season is an opportunity season, right? So because so much additional work can come out of tax season, right? If we're looking at it correctly. But I think what you and Jeremy and Upstream would teach is we don't want to be in the mindset of just grinding our way through our work, right? And our profession we've been known as we just grind our way through seasons. And I think y'all are very strategic to step away and to run companies in, more of a strategic way. And I guess that's how you approach business development too, you think?
Yeah, I think we have to, Jason. If we're constantly in reactionary mode, we may take whatever comes our way. And I think we call it the world of busy. We all have plenty going on in our lives and we all have limited time. So how can we be more intentional with that? And it's just a different mindset. It's not like we have to serve everyone that comes through the door. It is a business and we can run it like a business. And I struggle with it sometimes, Jason, because I have that service mentality or the helping mentality, but we can't be everything to everybody. And that step back and think, how can we be impactful with the time, our skills, our knowledge, in the best way that we can.
Yeah, that is hard. This profession is and you know this, I've been in the profession a long time. You have, people want to help people. Like this profession's pretty clearly a bunch of people that just want to serve. And that is where you alluded to it. That's where we get in trouble. And meaning we have to serve everybody, but you actually spoke, trying to grow a firm is a very strategic choice. It's like not every dollar is a good dollar. Not every client is the right client for our firm. And so there's a decision point there. And how do you do it? How should firms decide this is the right client for us? This is not the right client for us? Because it sounds like every client, there needs to be a decision around whether you take them or not.
I want to start big picture, and then we'll come back to maybe more tactical. But if firms don't have a vision of, can you clearly describe who we're going to be 2 or 3 years down the road? So starting with the vision of who do we want to be as a firm, and then what's the mission behind that? What's our purpose behind that? Why are we doing that? Do our people understand that? Do they see a better future? Does it excite them about where we're going as a firm? And when you start to clearly define who you want to be as a firm, then you can work backwards on what are the steps, what can we do to help get there? And that really gets back to the culture, people, clients, growth. And do we know what our kind of clients we want to work with? Or are we accepting everything that comes through the door? Do we go through a process every year? And do we look at like, which clients should we not be working with? Which clients don't treat our people well? Those kind of things we should be thinking about. But once you have a firm vision and you know where you want to go, it helps you make every decision through that lens.
Yeah, it does. And sometimes like a vision, core values, things like that feel very fluffy a lot of times, but that's some hardcore stuff, right? That it is truly foundational. And so are accounting firm owners not as visionary as they should be? Like it's hard for them to look 3 and 5 years out. Is that what you would teach them? It's like, hey, where are you going? You take them out into the future to be more visionary?
In a lot of ways, Jason, I think our profession is getting a lot better at that. I think they're hitting
Yeah.
certain, size and thresholds of from revenue, and they're
Yeah.
realizing that we can't do everything that we've always done to be successful in the future. And it's
Mm,
forcing them to rethink about how do we operate the business, how do we run the business, and succession planning. That's driving some of that too. You've got a lot of succession planning. So in some ways, I guess we're being forced to think more strategically, more long term, and then how do
true.
we get there?
Yeah, very cool. Yeah, well, it's good. Demographics changes a lot of that, right? So the profession still has a lot of older members, and they're transitioning their firms down. So we're all, trying to learn, and some of them are very visionary, right, in the way they've done things. But we're trying to learn how to do it differently. Let me ask you some stuff about business development. So I, you're in big firms, and really Upstream serves typically larger firms, and then Thrival, our community, and a lot of the consulting we do. Typically, we're serving $5 to $10 million firms, so those are smaller compared to a lot of the ones y'all work with. And yeah, I think business development a lot of times for them is a secondary thought. It's because typically that's driven by the owner, the partner, or something like that. And they just don't think about it, right? And so when revenue lags or they want more revenue, that's when they'll go do business development. But it's actually a very strategic function of a firm. And if in a smaller firm, the partner or the owner is doing it, what are you do you build a team? What kind of team do you have? Or how should you do it in a smaller firm when you don't even have a team? How do you do business development? Is that all on the owner?
Eh, in my mind, Jason, everyone has an opportunity to make an impact from a growth perspective. They may not have the same level of responsibility, but they have an opportunity. And when I go back to the cultural aspect of it, I think, you know, depending on the size of the firm, 5, 10, 15, 20, even north of that, I truly think people entering the profession have more of a desire to focus on growth and business development than what we give them credit for. And I think starting at that early level, then when they hit the manager level or whatever level it is in the firm, it's not like this big surprise of like, oh, by the way, you have to go start doing business development. It's not a surprise. It's just part of what they do. It's part of how they've grown up in the firm, and they actually might enjoy it instead of fear it. And Jason, I'll share one, if it's okay, I'll share one example. There was a CEO of a previous firm that I'd worked with, and he was one of the best business developers in the firm. And I'll never forget when we were looking at rolling out a business development program, he said, Heath, if I would have known I would have had to grow into practice, I would have found a different career path than public accounting. It's like, that just always stuck with me, that not a lot of people get into this profession because they want to be salespeople or focus on growth.
Yeah. Well, yeah, my partner and I do a lot of coaching with firm owners, and a lot of times we find they're very committed to they're trying to build a firm that they like, that they want to work in. And we try to turn their thoughts towards, are you building something that other people will want to come work in later, right? So we're always thinking, who are the employees that will be here 3 years from now that want to be in your firm? Build it for them. So, but that's hard because you sacrifice your own preference. A lot of times that means you do something you actually don't want to do, like you install a new piece of software, a difficult, install. And it's because you're trying to build something bigger than yourself. Is that a mindset? Bigger? It's got to be bigger than just who you are.
100%. I mean, it is a mindset. The questions I always go back to is, I'll ask, like, maybe you just say a room of 10 partners or 20 partners, like, why did you get into this profession and what do you love most about it? And there's different answers about why they got into it, but almost always when they say what I love most about it, it goes back to one of two things. I love seeing my clients be successful, or I love seeing our people be successful. And my answer is, you can't honor that if you are not growing in a healthy way. if you're growing in the right way, you can better serve your clients. If you're growing in the right way, you can better career paths. You can reinvest in your people, and that goes back to the heart of what do we think, value, and believe about growth. And you're not just throwing a percentage or a number out there. That's not going to inspire anyone. But it's like, why is this important to you, your firm, in the future of your career path?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you alluded to growth a lot of times when we talk about growth with firm owners. It's like, well, I want to be, a $3 million firm or a $5 million firm. It's a number, right, that we know to lean on. But you also said, if these partners say, I want to really help team and I want to really help clients, you said you can't achieve that unless you're growing in a healthy way. What does that mean? What does it mean growing in a healthy way? Actually, what does it mean to know you're growing in an unhealthy way too? How do you know when that's true?
Yeah, I'm going to hit the unhealthy piece first. I think from an unhealthy side, if you're growing too fast and you're bringing on the wrong kind of clients, or you're growing for the wrong reasons, it's going to be a culture rot. If your people feel like they're constantly trying to just keep up with what they can, if you see higher turnover, if you see employee engagement go down, if you see client engagement go down, all of those things are a symptom of growing in the wrong way. If you're growing in a healthy way, it allows firms to say yes to the right things and no to the wrong things. It allows you to reinvest and create career paths. It allows you to reinvest in your communities. And that's how I describe it. So I think there are things that will guide us, or like we see the numbers down the road, but the cultures we create, the mindset we create, is what's going to drive the outcomes, or to create the habits that get us the outcomes that we want in our firms.
Yeah. What's too fast? Yeah. Growing a firm too fast can overwhelm the owners, overwhelm the team. Like, is that a certain percentage revenue growth that's too fast, or did you mean other non-metric based things?
For me, Jason, it's hard to put an exact number on it, but I think you start to feel the tension if you are growing too fast. And if you are growing too fast, maybe it's a time to step back and say, are we still working with the right clients? Do we need to right size a certain practice? Or what are the steps we need to take to address that? It's hard for me to put a number on it, because if it's part of their vision or their plan to grow in a strategic way, and that does create new career opportunities or reinvesting in the firm's future, and they can say yes to the right things, and they're more profitable, they're working less, by all means, that's good. Those are good things.
Yeah. It just can't hurt what you have now, right? Whatever you built now is something to protect, right? So you can grow fast enough to dismantle kind of what you're doing. And so there can be signs of unhealthy growth when you start hating your job. Sometimes people can describe it that way. They're like, I did not get into this profession to do this, to grind my way through whatever they're grinding their way through. So maybe it's just more intuitive. It depends on the firm to know how unhealthy they may become, I guess.
Yeah, I think so. Because although there's a lot of similarities in firms, there's also differences in firms, and I think they have to do what's right for their organization. Yeah, and it's up to them to determine that. It's not even ours as an outside consultant, we can help provide guidance, but it's still their business to run, and they have to make the decisions that are right for their firm. Yeah,
very cool. How many partners? I know 13 firms. Do you know how many partners in Sorren now?
Approximately 100 partners.
Okay.
Getting there.
So, okay. That's a lot of partners, right? Is your role to help them stay on the same page? Or is your role really growth for the firm outwardly, more externally? Or what inward facing skills and responsibilities do you have?
So one of the things that I'm extremely passionate about, I'll hit the cultural side first. I'm a big believer in firm culture, creating leadership opportunities. So going back to that, one of the first priorities was getting our key industry leadership team set up. That's been huge. Our firm went through a process of bringing all the firms together. There was a large number of employees that were surveyed about their legacy firm cultures, what they loved about their firm cultures. Then there were cultural workshops where different levels from different offices where everyone came together. They talked about what was most important to them, what they valued the most. That led to us rolling out our firm vision, mission, and values as Sorren, which was impactful. There's ongoing work there. One of the other things that I've been pretty excited about is with my time at Upstream and Emerging Leaders Academy, I'm serving as a guide for our up and coming partners through that. So that's been a lot of fun. Launching an internal podcast focused on culture, getting to know our people. And so that's something I'm pretty passionate about as well. So that's a lot of the internal piece of it. The business development training, the growth will come next year. Actually, real quick, there's one thing that I think would be noteworthy. We did do an internal survey looking at like what traditional services had the legacy firms referred out. So looking at opportunities to either bring in or build certain service lines. We looked at non-traditional service lines that our clients were referring out. So that's helping us guide next steps from, non-traditional services. Interestingly enough, number 2 on that list was strategic planning and retreats and leadership development, which was I was already brought on board to help develop some of that. So that was big as well. Part of that was how much revenue, or like how many opportunities have we already internally referred in the firm. So if a legacy office didn't have the expertise, now they have another office that has that expertise, and that was substantial. So those were some other things internally from a growth perspective that we were looking at.
Very cool. And you're saying if you talk to your client base, they want strategic planning services from their firm. That's a trip. Is that just larger clients? Maybe larger clients know they need that.
It's been, so the first 2, keep in mind, we're just in early stages of testing this with our client base. One was a pretty substantial size nonprofit, awesome nonprofit. And then there was another one that was a general contractor that was roughly about 40 million in revenue from a size perspective. But those are the first 2 clients that I've started interacting with. From a travel perspective, those are my first 2 to get in this calendar year, and then looking to scale and grow that next year as well.
Yeah, very cool. And that's what you did at Upstream. You and Jeremy, y'all did that. Y'all taught those things, right?
It was definitely a piece of it for sure.
Yeah, among many other things that you did. So it's cool. Well, what do you say to grow in a healthy way, which is something you keep voicing? That's what we have to do in a healthy way, very visionary and strategic. It means a lot of firms are going to have to change. The partners have to change how they view growth. And I think fear a lot of times sits pretty deeply inside of partners. They're scared to change. And I don't know if the Sorren partners are like that. Maybe none of them are scared to change. Obviously, if they did this merger, or I don't know what you call it, maybe not a merger, but whatever you call it, they may not have been fearful. I don't know. But how do you deal with an owner who's fearful, knowing they've got to go do something different than what they're doing now? Fear it's rough.
Yeah. Fear is it's a real thing, Jason. And you said partners. I think it's just people in nature. I mean, we all have fear. It's a natural emotion. And I'm going to, early on, you asked me the question about surprises that came up whenever I joined Sorren. Something that I didn't surface was the fear aspect of it, because I was not surprised, because that's just part of change. You have, when things are going to be done differently, there is always some element of fear behind that. And when we look at change, we look at the last 5 years, we look at the last 20 years of the profession. My advice is it's going to happen one way or another. Change is going to happen. You can either choose to be intentional and invest in your future and guide your future, or you can step back and wait and see what happens. And I just don't think we can afford to do that. As fast-paced of a world we live in, I would much rather see a team or a firm be intentional, knowing that not everything's going to go as planned. We get that. You're going to learn from it. You're going to refine it. But one thing that I would share, Jason, this is maybe more of a quote that has just had a significant impact on me. I actually have the book Power of Positive Teams behind me. Big John Gordon fan, is really how we have that mindset of optimism. And there was a quote, and I'll probably butcher the quote, but it was something along the lines of, when you think about the future, if it hasn't happened yet, why would you choose to think about everything that could go wrong? And there's a lot of truth to that of like, why do we hone in on all the bad things or everything that could go wrong in the profession or in our firms, and we don't think about everything that's going right? Or we don't think about how wonderful of a profession. Or if we have people that are fearful, what if things do go right? It's just a different mindset. And
yeah. Well, I think it was who wrote, and AI is a big thing, change that's been put on us. The founder of LinkedIn wrote an AI book. It's about all the things that could go right about AI, because change is like that. COVID, anything that brought an unintentional change, AI, it's like, that's coming, y'all. we're gonna need to, embrace that and bring that as a strategy into our firms. And it is a beautiful spin to look at the world ahead of you and go, what could go right? I think we're not wired that way as people, right? We're trying to. Loss aversion is a very neuroscience-based things. Minimization of risk. These are the things we do as humans. But entrepreneurship, owning a firm, growing a firm, is pushing against that stuff in a hard way. So we really do approach things from a fear perspective. And I love, it sounds like you come at it another way. You really lean towards the positive, what's great about the future. That's just books have taught you kind of to look at the future that way?
Books have helped. I mean, there's other resources that have helped. And I'm going to go back. You mentioned like the negative side. We're naturally wired. It's self-preservation. There was an article a good friend of mine shared. I don't know how they got to these numbers, but if it's even close, we have 12,000 to 60,000 thoughts a day. 80% are negative, 95% are repetitive. So we're naturally wired to think that way. But for me, Jason, reading, studying, meeting other great leaders, what I've learned is like with our arrows out approach and optimism, things will be hard. It's life, it's our careers. Running a business is not easy, but with that, it helps through, less angst in our firms, less anxiety in our firm, less stress, our physical health, our mental health, all of that is better. And I've seen when just me personally, because I'm still struggle with it. I still wake up in bad moods or think about things that are going wrong. But what I've learned is when I'm more have that optimism or attitude of gratitude and focus on that, it just has a positive impact on me and those around me. And in a way, it almost attracts more people to you and your cause and your vision, and your purpose, when you do have that approach instead of the doom and gloom and constant negativity.
Yeah. Well, I guess that constant negativity has a lot to do with yourself. You're trying to protect yourself, right? You're fearful of something being done to you. And when you find very visionary, growth-oriented people like you find they're kind of, there's a sacrifice to yourself you've got to give. If you're going to lead a firm in any substantial way, make changes in people's lives, you got to die to something you want to do and make it about other people, making organizations that's good for other people to work in, that's good for clients to be served. That's hard. There's a little death to yourself if you're going to be positive and growth oriented, it feels like.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, Jason. I look at it and I go back to just my career path, and when I had the opportunity to join Upstream, a lot of it was that I just get the most joy out of seeing other people be successful or doing things that they did not think that they can do. And so, yes, it's helping or trying to focus on others, but to me, there's not a lot more rewarding than seeing other people achieve the things that they want to achieve. And that's pretty cool.
That is cool. Yeah. What do you think about do you think COVID was good for our profession? Did it force our hand to do things we probably should have been doing anyway? I know there was a lot of negative to work. It did hurt people in different ways, but what do you think that the take of that situation was on firms?
There were definitely some good things. There were definitely some negative things, and maybe even outside of our profession from a negative standpoint, because I think as people, we need human connection. We need to be connected with others. Some of the good things that I think happen. One, I guess the best way I could describe it, if we could go back to 2020 or maybe 2019, and I told you that every firm was going to go remote in a couple of weeks and do it pretty well, you would have thought I was absolutely crazy. And it went pretty well. The other thing that I watched was you talked from a cultural perspective, and being an advisor, investing in your people. There were more town halls. There was more open communication. There were more people in firms that would reach out just to see if their people were okay. So there was a lot of thought. There was a lot of intentionality around reaching out to our people, reaching out to our clients. And that was good. I think charging for the value of our work, it forced firms to increase fees. And that, again, that probably sounds bad the way I say it, but it was more of like getting the value of, we only have so much time. Firms that never raised their fees, now they were doing it like 15% 2 years in a row. And it's like, oh my goodness, we can do it. Like we can run it like a business. Oh yeah, this client's treating our people poorly. You know what? It's okay. We've got plenty of work. We can make that decision. So I think there were things like that that forced our hand that I think changed the profession for a long period of time in a lot of good ways. I just hope that firms don't forget how they reached out, how they invested in their people, how they just connected intentionally, because it's so easy when we get back to focusing on our to-do list to forget about those things.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And the things you listed that COVID forced upon us, to think about team and raise prices and fire clients that we shouldn't be working with. Those are actually very strategic things, right? Those, we should have always been doing those. So it's cool that it forced our hand to make intentional strategic choices on how to grow, because growth is kind of a decision, right? A lot of times it's not, like you said, it's not stepping back and letting, the world happen to you. It's actually making a decision to move forward in a very particular way. And I guess that's what you do as a growth partner, right? A business development person. You're trying to convince somebody we're going to be the thing that actually helps you, strategically move forward and be healthier moving forward.
Yeah, and Jason, I go back to those 4 areas. If it's not impacting your firm culture or your people or your clients, it's probably not, in a positive way, it's probably not the right kind of growth.
Yeah.
I look at it as the fuel in our gas tank.
Yeah. Very cool. Yeah. Well, what do you think about team and maybe younger professionals? There's been a lot of talk about that, even before COVID, probably, our profession having lower people, lower rates of people choosing the profession. My daughter's in an accounting class. I'm like, all right, at university, you're going to be an accountant. She's like, Dad, I'm not. Like, that's not happening, man. And I mess with her, but people are choosing it less and less. But still, we have some great team members, but we also hear horror stories about people just, team members ghosting people, either just overwhelmed or they claim they're burned out, and I don't know. There's just a lot of mixed messages about team. What do you think how would you describe the profession for brand new team members? Or how would you think about that? Well, I guess for anybody thinking about this profession, maybe really.
Yeah. My message, Jason, is pretty clear. It's this profession will do more for you than you can ever do for it. And
that's
that
cool.
goes back to how, I got into this profession. I never intended to stay in it. And I've met so many wonderful people and had so many cool opportunities. And when I promise people, if you get in and you do the right things, you will have ample opportunity.
Yeah.
Meet a ton of great people.
Yeah. Just it is a long-term game. You kind of, especially with probably any technical profession, the longer you're in it, the more technical skills and chops you gain. You get better at your work, more strategic, more high level. The experience really does help you when you stay in it long-term, which is cool. All right, man. We're coming towards the end, but I need some practical advice on business development. Firms, what are they probably not doing? What's something they need to regularly be doing? Do they need different team members on their business development team? Networking, what is that? Just give us some practical things we probably need to be thinking about doing in our firms now.
Well, Jason, we may have another 45-minute conversation.
I know.
I'll be concise with some of my answers. So thinking about, I encourage firms to leverage data and look at patterns.
Okay.
And you look at patterns, one of the most common ways that people are looking for professional services firms is they ask someone else they trust. So you think about going back to let's just say at the manager level, or maybe even to a partner level, where they're going to have the most success is within their own current client base. They're likely, they may not be the 80-20 rule or even 70-30, but my guess is in a lot of firms, there's a large percentage of revenue coming from a small percentage of clients. How many of those clients are you just providing one service for? So think about your win rates are going to be way higher from a cross-serving perspective. Not only that, you're going to know the kind of clients you're already getting involved with. They're probably the clients that embrace that advisory mindset, the relationship. They're probably the clients out singing your praises. So if you're telling me you don't have time, think about your very top clients. And if you tell me you can't meet with them 2 or 3 times a year to invest and understand their business and look for new opportunities to serve them, that's an easy, we should be doing that anyway. If you want to think about ways to leverage that, how often are people in our profession proactively making an ask for an introduction in their network? Most people naturally want to help. And if you're truly making a difference in your client base, they want to see you be successful. Not saying you have to do it in some pushy way or like the favor bank, but it's like, hey, my role as an advisor is to help our communities. Do you know anyone else that could get the same kind of value out of a relationship like this? And so it's things like that. Another question, Jason, this is baseline, but I can't tell you how many times I've asked this question of multiple partner groups. Can you tell me who your top 2 or 3 prospective clients are? The answer has been, majority of the time has been no. You can't be intentional if you can't tell me who your top 2 or 3 prospective clients are. Start simple. Those things. Bring other people along. Start building it earlier in your culture. Don't just go at it alone. Bring others along in that journey. That's easy. Have them sit in on client meetings. Bring them along to a prospective client meeting. Take them to a networking event.
Yeah, yeah. So all those ways. Well, and when you list the the who's your top prospective clients, is it listing clients, listing specific clients, or is that an industry? Or
I think it's specific
is
clients,
it both?
but they could be within an industry if they do have.
Okay.
I mean, that could depend on size of firm if they do have a specific area of focus, or depending on the partner or the manager's background, it can depend. But that's just a baseline starting point. If you can't tell me who your top 2 or 3 prospective clients are, it's hard to have a plan. It's hard. Again, it's going to be reactionary of what comes through the door, than you out proactively reaching out, having advisory conversations. And Jason, I know we're running out of time, but like one last piece of advice for, if people struggle with that or the fear, think about it. If they were a doctor and they had a cure for some rare disease, shouldn't we be telling people about it? People in our profession have gifts. They have talent. They have ways to make a difference in our clients. Why would we not talk to them about it? They can make a difference. So like that, maybe I'm getting a little fired up talking about it, but we have so much opportunity to impact our clients and our communities.
Yeah, that's very cool. No, well, that's just is a great testament to the profession. I think in general, we're an amazing profession. We have such an insight to our clients. They really are. I think they have to be just completely open and transparent with us about some of the good and the bad in their life. And so we have kind of that door that's swung wide open that we get to walk through and do the most help, I think. And so I think you're right. We need to be sharing what we can offer, to people, the clients we serve and the team we serve. So Heath, thank you for hanging out with us, man, on the Thrivecast. I appreciate you being here.
Yeah, absolutely, Jason. I enjoyed the conversation, and it's a good time.
Yeah. Well, how do people find out more about Sorren? Or have y'all started writing blogs or content, or should they follow you on LinkedIn, or what are the best ways to connect with you?
Probably the easiest way, Jason, is just through LinkedIn, and then we do have some other Sorren channels through LinkedIn and other areas. My personal email, I'm happy to put that out there, is just H Alloway. It's ALLOWAY at Sorren.com.
Okay.
I'm rooting for the profession, Jason. I tell people that they may
Love it.
So it's, if I can ever, I love talking to people in the profession, and always happy to connect.
Yeah, very cool. I love it. Well, we'll leave it with that, Heath, where you said I'm rooting for the profession. That's a pretty positive way to end the show. So thanks for joining us on the Thrivecast, man. I appreciate you.
Yeah, thank you, Jason. Appreciate all the work you do.
All right, thanks. Take care.